So for this build, we're going back to our trusty old LED floodlights. 20 watt these are, 6,000 Kelvin, so they give that more sort of white light rather than a yellowy light that you might see on normal floodlights. Now, since I actually made these before, my wiring skills and electrical skills have improved, so I will be redoing all of this wiring for it. I've got some nice black wiring as well that will go nicely for it. But then how are we going to fix it to the top? So I'm just going to build a couple of brackets. I've got some wood, so I'm just going to go straight up with a bit of wood and then come across at 45 degrees. They'll be black as well, so you're not really going to see them. And then we can have two nice spotlights, decent height above the tank. There'll be a good amount of light. It works really well on my discus tank for that specific amount of light, and hopefully we get really nice growth like I've got in there, and this tank could look absolutely amazing. I've got a feeling, guys, that this tank is going to be my best yet. Click subscribe. So you can see here I'm measuring out two pieces of wood, one of 70 centimeters length and one of 30 centimeters. These will act as the main frame for our lighting bracket. Make sure you cut all your wood nice and square and sand off all the edges to get a real neat finish. We can then use the right angle triangle piece of wood we've cut off to lock the two pieces of wood into the correct position. Then all we need to do is slap some black paint on it, and we're pretty much good to go. So as mentioned, I'm going to reuse these floodlights that I've used before. They're 20 watt, 6,500 Kelvin colour temperature. When I originally wired them, I just used some spare stuff that I had. It was grey wires. It just doesn't look good, does it? So now I'm going to attach this black wires to it. I can then attach them to the frames we've created and pin back the wire so it runs all neatly alongside it. This should give us a really neat finish, and to be honest, it's so black, all of this, that it's just going to blend into the background anyway, and hopefully you won't even notice them. I then bent the frames of the floodlights. This means that they'll sit square on the custom brackets that we made. I'm saying custom because it sounds a lot better than bits of wood. I then attached the lights to the custom brackets and then proceeded to tape the wires to the frames. I was going to use wire tacks, but you know, the ones I've got are too small and I can't go out and get any more. So as I always say, make do with the stuff you've got and get on with the job. Now to attach the lights. I measured an equal distance from each side of the tank and placed each light bracket 30 centimeters above. I always find that 30 centimeters above a tank is a really good place for lighting. It kind of stops any algae issues. It means you don't have like a high powerful light, but then I don't really like to go for high energy setups anyway. Well, there we have it, guys. I think that's looking really tidy, and that's given us a really good base to start our hardscape. So we've got all of our hardscape in from Aquarium Gardens, guys. We've got Millennium Stone in this top box, and I've got loads of Manzanita wood as well in that bottom box. I've not even opened these yet because I wanted to open them with you for the nice surprise. But the first thing we need to do is put the base layer in the aquarium. So for that, I'm going to be using the Volcano Mineral from JBL. Now, this is supposed to be like super porous volcanic rock. The idea being that the water can still circulate at the bottom layer and you won't get sort of like pockets of anaerobic activity. I don't really know. I'm trying to sound intelligent. I don't know. All I know is that porous rock allows for masses of bacterial colonization. I do know that. So that's one reason why this stuff is brilliant, because the surface area of each piece is huge compared to, say, a solid rock. Now, this isn't absolutely essential. JBL would love for me to tell you that you have to have it, but I'm going to keep it real with you guys. You don't have to have it. But like with most things in life, you do get what you pay for. This is a superior product, and it will mean that we've got a fantastically biologically filtered aquarium. If you imagine the amount of filter media you can get in your filter, and then you could times it by about 10 for the amount of media we're going to be able to put in as a base layer and still have the water circulating around through it. And you know, the more bacteria you've got, the better. You can't have too much bacteria, can you? So let's just get this stuff in. So inspiration for this tank comes from fellow UK aquascaper George Farmer. He scaped one of his tanks a long while ago with a similar theme to what I'm doing here. I'll be using his system for substrate and creating the general overall nature aquarium theme that he also went for. There'll be a slight variation of course, because I'm indenting the middle section to hopefully give a lot more open space at the front for the fish to swim in. So I'm going to be using 3 bags of the JBL Volcano mineral in this scape, and as you can see I'm pushing it right to the back to bank it up. This will give us the much needed height that we'll need to create the look that we're going for with the scape. So let's talk about this awesome aquarium, guys. It's made by Aquariums for Life. It's 100 centimeters across. Oh, wrong way. 60 centimeters front to back, 60 centimeters in height. It's a total of 430 litres. I don't know what that is in gallons, but I'll put it up on screen. It's also got these really nice soft closed doors, and the whole inside is lined with solid oak. There you go, I'm hitting it as proof that it's solid oak. Anyway, the glass is Opti-White glass, 12mm thick, and the silicone work is absolutely perfect and flawless. There's not a single imperfection in it anywhere. If you're interested in buying one, guys, or even taking a look at their website, I'll leave a link below. They ship everywhere and the prices are really, really good as well. So I'm going to be using the Hugo Kamishi decorative sand. This stuff looks insanely good and I really like using it on natural style scapes. Obviously at the moment it doesn't look fantastic just on its own, but once we've got our rock border in there, I've also got a coarser version of this stuff to really add some details in and amongst all the rocks. That way we can get that really nice graded effect as we come towards the front of the aquarium. Also, I might mix in a lighter sand with it at a later date just to give it even more texture. You'll notice as well that I'm not adding a really thick layer to the front. This is a technique that's used by many aquascapers and it creates a really neat finish. It also means that cleaning and maintenance is a lot easier, and you can even just remove the sand at a later date and replace it quite easily if you want to. So absolutely granted, it does look a bit funky, guys, at the moment, I will admit that, but this is the base, remember. So what we've done, we've gone up a third of the way at the back with the substrate layer, which is the volcano mineral, and then the decorative sand at the front actually overlaps that. Now the reason for that is that in this whole area here we're going to be putting rocks that will divide the two types of substrate. These rocks will actually act as a retaining wall because we're going to be putting the Tropica Aquasoil that we've got here, and I've got the fine grain stuff because it's my favourite. I really like it. It just locks plants in really well. That's going to be going on top as well, which means that by the time we've got our rocks up to about this level and then our Aquasoil on top of that, we'll probably be looking at having all the substrate totally to about halfway up the tank. That's like 30 centimeters of height there, which is brilliant. Just means that we're going to get really great height in our scape. Now you may be wondering, why do we want height in the aquarium? Well, height adds interest. So the higher up we can create our focal points, the more your eyes are drawn around the tank, and it's a lot more interesting, in my opinion, to be able to look over the whole tank rather than just small areas on the bottom. And obviously this is all going to make sense as we progress through the build, guys, so make sure you're subscribed for all the updates as they come. And this stuff here next to Timmy's tank is the stuff I was talking about that's coarser. You can see there, look, how it sort of matches the fine grain stuff. And I've also got some other sand as well to go with it to just get even more detail as we go along. So what I'm unboxing here is a shipment of Millennium Stone. Now you might be thinking, what's the difference between Millennium Stone and Sirius Stone? So as far as I can tell, Sirius Stone tends to have like white veins running through it, and it looks more sort of rough and not quite as smooth or rounded, if you like. Millennium Stone kind of reminds me of elephant skin in a way. It seems to be a little bit more subtle than Sirius Stone. And as you can see, we've got an absolute ton of it here. I would say there's about 30 kilograms of stone here. Now it's important to get a large amount of hardscape. Basically, the more you have, the more you can choose from. And there's nothing worse than looking at a large tank that's got a few bits of rock in it and not a lot else. It will completely ruin your aquascape if you don't have enough hardscape to begin with. And as you know, hardscape is the skeleton of the whole aquarium. If you don't get this bit right, you're really going to struggle to get a good look as we progress. Let's get scaping. Right, where to start? I'm just going to pick stuff up, start chucking it in, and just chat to you whilst I'm doing it. And just explain what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. If it can be explained, I mean, a lot of this is all kind of random, making it up as you go along. So let's just get on with it. Right, so far on this side, we've just got a... Oh... Ow. Yeah, so far on this side, we've just got a really big sort of section, if you like. It's quite a sort of impactful area. It's going to be even higher as well. So what I'm going to do is put even more of the substrate behind these rocks here. And then it means we can come up probably about to this height with the rock, because I want this side to be boom, and then this side to be boom. Using silly sounds to describe that. Hopefully you know what I mean there, like a big side and then a lower side, so it's not all on one level, if you like. And then that means we've got the 2 key focal points and we can focus our wood arrangements around those 2 areas. Just a quick disclaimer, guys, I don't want you to think that just because I'm talking in a confident way it means I think I'm some sort of expert or anything. I'm gonna let you into a little secret. I make all this up as I go along, and that is the truth of it. That's how I like to aquascape. I like to make it up. I don't plan anything. I know there are some aquascapers out there who plan it down to the T and spend like a month on their hardscape. I mean, as you've just seen then, I've just chucked stuff in and thought it looked good. Does there really need to be anything more than that? For what I like doing, then no, there isn't. I appreciate that there's some like competition people out there that like to go above and beyond with their scapes. That's not me. Their stuff looks amazing, don't get me wrong, but as you'll see as this progresses, I don't think there's any need to go to masses of fine tuning and tweaking constantly. By all means, follow a shape and make it fit, but like tiny angles and that on the rock, I don't think are gonna make a difference because 1, it's gonna be shaded because I'm gonna have so many plants and wood over the top of it, and 2, it's gonna be full of anubias. I've got so much anubias to ram into all these nooks and crannies, you won't even be able to see much of the rock. I'm now placing the rock into the right side of the tank. This side will be a lot shallower than the left, and this is deliberate because we don't want to just make it look like a solid wall. Nature doesn't really work like that. You can also see we've got a bit of an S shape going on with the position of the rocks. This means that in a deeper section we can also add a separate little island if we want to, keep that nice and low. It will just add a really nice interesting area in the foreground. When you're creating an aquascape, you want to be picking lots of little points that draw the eyes in and keep them travelling over the whole aquascape. If you can do this, then you'll end up with a fantastic result in my opinion. So it's the next day now, guys. As I said, I want to take my time with this one, and you can see I've got all of these rocks still to be able to put on top of this section. Oh, I haven't even put the lights on. Whoops. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, so I want to put these rocks on top of the rocks we've got. But in order to do that, I need to start building up this layer at the back a bit more. I could just use Aquasoil only, but the problem with that is it will have a tendency to creep through any gaps that we've got here. So if I build up the lava rock at the back, the volcano mineral, if I build that up close to the rocks a bit more and then put the Aquasoil on, we should be alright in terms of it, you know, falling into the foreground. Some of it will, that's just how it goes. I then spotted that there's a little gap at the front here in this section, and I thought it would look really good to block it with another piece of rock. Adding in these little pieces of rock in the foreground can really add more detail and give better sense of scale to the larger rocks. So that's all the base layer of substrate and the first layer of rocks in. Next job is to start building up that background with a bit of our Tropica aquarium soil powder stuff. This is the fine grained stuff, like I said before. I like to use it. It's really good at just sort of locking in plants if you get nice and deep into it. And with the amount of depth we want to create here, we can have a really decent layer in there to be able to plant nice and deep. So we're now at the stage where we can add our Aquasoil in. Well, at least I thought we were, and then as I started to pour the Aquasoil into this corner, I noticed it was creeping through a small gap in the left hand side. Stop everything, we don't want to continue with it like that. I then remembered a method I've used in many of my other tanks to stop this happening. What you want to do is take some spare filter floss, go around the back of the rock, and you can push it into the gaps. This means there's absolutely no chance of anything coming through, not even fine grains of sand or Aquasoil or anything, which is absolutely perfect. And then I thought I might as well go across the whole aquascape and plug everything. After that's done, we can then start adding in the Aquasoil again. Place it in nice and carefully. I like to stick it to the back first and then gently push it forward with my hands. Again, just seeing if there is any gaps, and then if we spot anywhere we can add even more filter floss. So that's all the Aquasoil in, well not all of it. I've actually banked it up at the back there just to show myself the level I actually want it to be at. But by putting in what I have already, that's allowed me now to see any gaps that would have fallen through. But also it's now enabling me to place some more rock on that level there to be able to raise the height even more in these sections, and then we can put even more soil behind that. So I know that seems a bit extreme. I mean, there's quite a lot there already. It's about half the aquarium in height. but the front bit isn't. There's only like an inch there of soil. I want more than that, especially as there's going to be all crypts in this sort of area, because that'll be the shaded points. So now it's a case of just building up a nice big layer of rock there, and then in another area sort of here as well. Not as high, because we want a high area and a low area. It's just really good for the eyes if you have that, and that's what I want to do. So you might notice this section here is slightly different. So that one at the back there was right forward coming along, and it looked like too much of a flat straight wall to me. So I set it back a bit, which exposed a little bit of the soil. I put in some more of the filter floss, and then just put a couple more rocks on top. You can see this one and this one. I didn't film that because it was a bit of a sort of gut reaction to doing something, and I just did it thinking that I could film it again afterwards, but now it's there, it looks good. I don't need to change it, but we've got some really nice sort of flow going on now. We've got like a whoa, which is what you want. You don't want everything flat, do you? The next job though is to start adding lots more detail on the front here, because at the moment it's looking way too clean for what I like. So what's the method then for laying down the detail stones? So what you need to do is take the maximum surface area of one portion. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you just chuck it down, like literally. The best way to get this looking as natural as possible is just to throw it in there. One thing I will say though is to condense the amount of stones closer to the rock wall as you can, so it sort of grades out as it comes forwards. This tends to be how stones lay in nature, on a river bottom or something like that. But again, don't focus on that too much, just let it sort of happen. I'm also using the stone to sort of fill out any deep cracks and crevices as well. This should stop any detritus or any grime collecting in those areas at a later date. See? Forward thinking and planning. That's the result of doing many scapes now. I can think about the long-term cleaning and maintenance aspect of it as I'm building it, which is really, really useful. Okay, well that's turned out absolutely brilliant. I'm loving that look. It just instantly transforms it, doesn't it? And I want to take it one step further as well. So I've actually got a load of the Rio Zingu left over from another project, and this stuff's going to add even more of a really nice aesthetic to that sort of border area. So as with before guys, be random in your placement. I'm being a little bit different with this stuff because I'm just chucking it directly onto the stones. By doing this, it will fall down and create its own placement that will look kind of more natural and as if it's sort of flowed down a river and just fallen into place. I then got bored of doing it with my hand and just started chucking it on with the tub. Well, I think we've absolutely nailed it guys. I'm loving that look. Grading looks so natural, but I think we're kind of missing something in this section, or well, we're not missing it, but I'd like to see a small little outcrop, if you like, of rocks. Something that I can add a few little plants to, like a little island, if you like, separate on its own, keeping it shallow, of course. I don't want it to be impacting the main view of the whole aquarium. I just think a little bit of detail down there might be quite good. So we've got a couple of rocks left over. I'm going to put them in that area and just see how it goes. Might not work, but hopefully it does. I know. You're probably thinking, that looks awful. Why have you got that random bit there? It doesn't go with the flow. Trust me, it should come into its own when we start planting. But overall, guys, I have to say, I think this is the best hardscape I've ever done. Hopefully you'll agree with me. And I think the reason it's been so successful is that I've been able to take my time with it. Like I said, doing the videos for you in this way, more of a vlog style as it happens. And it just means I can take a lot more consideration with everything I'm doing and making sure that I'm 100% happy with it before moving on to the next stage. This is something that you should all try and practice when you're building your hardscapes. Yeah. Oh baby, look, we got some insanely good pieces of manzanita there. So this is like the gnarled manzanita they call it, so it's the bigger, chunkier pieces. Look at this piece here, it's a big old piece. That's gonna look awesome, isn't it? Look, I mean obviously it'll be further back than that, but Manzanita is an awesomely detailed wood from the western parts of Northern America. It's perfect for plant aquariums and it does not leach any tannins or colour into the water. It's also really good for attaching plants to like Java fern, Anubias and mosses, just to give it that really mature look straight away. Now it is very buoyant and will try to float, so you can either soak it in some water for a couple of weeks or you can attach rocks to it to make sure that it's weighed down straight away. Oh, I just want to get started. Let's just jump straight in. So you may have seen many other aquascapers on YouTube following specific lines with their wood, and I do that there's that again. I do that sometimes. But in this instance, what I'm trying to achieve with the wood here is create a framework for all the plants that's going to be placed amongst it. I'm trying to create a skeleton, if you like, and then we can place our plants all around that skeleton and condense them into the areas that I actually want them to be. So as I said to you earlier on in the video, I'm going for 2 main focal points with this one. Well, I think that is looking insanely good, guys. I don't know about you, but come on, like, look, especially when you walk in the studio. Hang on, just watch this. And don't forget, guys, if you are interested in joining Behind the Scenes Club, then click the join button below for loads of additional content. So we open the door and then boom, look at that. High impact that is, I think. So yeah, you could, hang on, let me turn off these lights behind quickly. There we go, right, look, so look at that. Like, you can see, I mean, there is kind of a flow I went with. You can see the angles sort of coming in, diagonals. You don't just want straight up stuff because it doesn't always work. But every now and again, like this piece here, it does work to do some straight pieces. But again, so I was talking about the 2 areas. So the area is going to be here, and then also over this side will be our 2 main focal points. This one should be a little bit higher than this one. But overall, in the end, it's all just going to be like just one big jungle. That noise again was... But I'm absolutely loving that, guys. But the problem is, well, not a problem, but what I've got to do now is make sure that all that stuff stays where it is when we go to fill up with water. Because if I was to start planting now and, you know, like getting some of the moss on the wood and the anubias, fill it up with water, the whole thing would just float, every single bit of it. So what I'm going to do down here, look, it's aquarium silicone, specifically designed for aquariums. So I'm going to use some of this, which is not really a method I've actually seen others use really, but I'm just going to do blobs of it in certain points where the wood touches the rock. And then if I just do that and then a wood touching a bit of wood, afterwards you can go and cover it with moss or bits of gravel or whatever. But yeah, so just going to do that now. And then by the time it gets to the morning, that should all be like stuck down. And it actually means it's going to be really easy for us to start applying all the different plants that we want to the wood. So yeah, I'm just going to crack on with that now and get that silicone on those different points. Right, so I've gone round and basically I put a little dab of the black silicone on anything. I didn't actually know it was black until I started squeezing it out, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter because you can't see it now and you definitely won't see it when we've got all the plants all over it. But yeah, I've just done one sort of big blob in all these little key areas. So basically everything is actually locked down and hopefully by the morning will be secure. And then I can just go along and just put on a bit more and even more key areas and just get it absolutely solid. Now the good thing about silicone is if I don't like it or I want to change the scape at any point, I can just peel it off. It like takes 2 seconds. It all comes off as one big lump as well, so it doesn't damage the wood or the rocks or anything, and it's perfect really. Yeah, I think a really good option to, you know, stick stuff together that we don't see very often. I suppose it's because it takes time to set. I wouldn't want to be touching any of this till the morning now anyway. If you are going to do this, make sure you use the aquarium safe silicone, because some of the other silicones have like anti-algae in and stuff like that, which is actually harmful to your fish potentially. So yeah, just make sure you're getting the right stuff. What you want to get is 100% silicone, that's it. Right, so it's the next morning. Let's go and have a look and see if the silicone's dry. Okay, how we looking? Right, touch test. That's not moving anywhere, perfect. Solid. I mean, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be like completely solidly on, but as long as if you tap it, it doesn't move like that. Look, I could move it and it does move a little bit, but it's not going anywhere. And this main piece here, that's on solid. This bit, all connected. Everything's connected together now, which is perfect. That's what we want. There's no way it should be able to float up. I'm really loving this little island I've made as well. I'm really happy with it. I've got a little tiny piece of manzanita here as well. I might do like a little island tree or something. Might look a bit tacky, but you know what? I don't care. It'll be quite cute when it just have a little, like a little manzanita tree or something coming over the top. I don't know, whatever. But the good thing is, now that all this is secure, we can start placing some plants onto it. I think it's a really good idea to get the detailed front areas done first before we then move in to the back area where we can put our stem plants and anything tall or like valve that will sweep over. Yeah, we'll do that. So for our plants, I've got a nice mixture of different things. I've got tissue culture plants, And I've also got like different mosses and things as well. So this is weeping moss. This one's come in a little pot. I don't know why. Then I've got Taiwan moss, which is grown in like a gel, and you know, you just wash the gel off and then you can put it wherever you want. And then I've got Micranthemum Monte Carlo, and I think that's how you say it as well. Yay, I finally got one correct. So yeah, Monte Carlo. This is like sort of plant that it's in a liquid in there, nutrient liquid. It can be placed in substrate or it can be placed directly on things. It works both ways actually. Quite a versatile little plant this. It's tiny little textures as well, so it should look really good. And then we've got tons and tons of Anubias that you can see all in here. Loads of Bucephalandra as well, or Bucephalandra, however you want to say it. Got that in here as well, being stored. We've also got loads of Bulbitis and tons of Java Fern. And also I'm going to be using this Hydrocotyle Japan, Hydrocotyle Japan as well. Little trimmings of that. Can just go in all these nooks and crannies again, because that doesn't actually need to be planted. It will pull nutrients from the water column, which is ideal. So basically there's going to be like a solid wall of green effectively there, and then even more green behind it. And because of that, and because of how amazing this wood is, I don't want to put any moss on the wood itself. It's beautiful. It doesn't need to be covered in moss in my opinion. So what I'll be doing with the moss is attaching it to small stones and pebbles and placing it strategically around the scape, and then it will sort of fill in those areas as it grows and should look absolutely awesome. Why am I talking like this? So here's everything you're going to need to make some awesome moss rocks. Super glue, cotton, scissors, mosses of course, paper towel, water mister and rocks. Start by placing moss on the rocks, and when you have a good amount on, you can wrap the rocks and moss in cotton thread. It helps to have everything wet at this stage. It just helps it stick better to the rocks. Once you've covered the whole rock in moss and wrapped it in cotton, you can then add a dab of glue. It helps to have the gel form of super glue for this, but you can still possibly do it with the normal kind of super glue. You then place a tiny piece of paper towel on top of the super glue, press it down gently and allow it to stick. The point of this is that it's just much less fiddly than trying to tie knots, having it undo, and oh, it's pain, such a pain. This is so much easier. Now, obviously, as you can imagine, with the amount of rocks that we need to wrap in the moss, it's going to be quite time consuming. So if you place down some kind of tray, put some more paper towel in it and spray it with the mister, we can then place each moss rock in there as we're doing it and cover it back up with more wet paper towel. This just means we don't have to rush anything and we just take our time and get it looking really good. Right, so we've got our mosses all ready. Ta-da! Ta-da! Oh, ta-da! Everything's stuck down, everything's good to go. Make sure you've got your mister handy, because mosses will dry out quite quickly. They're quite forgiving, so it doesn't matter if, you know, you're not perfectly soaking wet, but you want to keep them as moist as possible. I mean, I actually prepared more moss there than I thought, but wow, I'm really loving that. Look how vibrant it looks. That's going to look amazing. Even like that looks pretty cool, doesn't it? But obviously we're not going to stop there. Nothing like stopping there, because next we need to add some of the Anubias and Bucephalandra that we've got in this tank. So I'm going to take it out, prep it all, and then we've got a whole load just to place wherever we want. So to prepare your plants is pretty simple, but I do know a few little tricks and tips that might help you along the way. To start with, just remove the basket from the plant and you'll see that it's surrounded by what's called a rock wall, and this is just something that absorbs minerals from the water where it's grown. These are actually grown in little tubs, and then the top part is out of water, the bottom part is in the water, so the roots can take nutrition from the water itself. The reason they're growing like this is because the atmosphere is full of CO2 and there's better lighting and everything out of water effectively. But anyway, once you've split your rock wall in half and pulled away as much as you can with your fingers, you can then use your tweezers or a fork or something spiky and just start prying bits of it off. It's the most effective way to do it without damaging the plant or the roots. So that's nearly all the rock wall removed. We've got loads of plants there. We've got Bucephalandra wavy green, and we've got Anubias Nana Barteri, one of those. So now let's get it in the tank. Right, so obviously I've just noticed this big eyesore here that I've not really done anything about yet. So what we can do for that is this. Mist it down a little bit to get a bit of moisture on it. Just like that. Let that drip off for a second or soak in. And then we can apply some super glue directly to it. Look, just like that. And then we can take our Anubias as well as our Bucephalandra and just attach it directly to it. And that will stick very quickly. It doesn't harm the plants, and this super glue, by the way, guys, is, I think it's like cyanoacetate or something like that. It doesn't harm the fish or the plants at all, and as soon as it actually touches water, it becomes inert and goes into sort of like a solid plastic. There we go, look, that's that on there. You can't even tell there was a bit of wood there. Perfect. Right, so that's all of the Anubias in and the mosses. I think for the Bucephalandra, I actually want to attach some of that to the wood. It doesn't sort of cover the wood or detract from it in any way. And it's a really sort of subtle plant that doesn't grow massive. So some key little areas like here maybe, and on this little branch at the front. I'll still keep it low because it doesn't like too much light. But, you know, like here would be perfect as well. So that branch, and then around this section I think would be really nice. Right, we're all ready, plants are moist, they'll be okay for a good while, but now we need to select our plants, and where am I going to get them from? Oh, I'm going to get them from there. Perfect. So I'm going to be placing the Java Fern and the Bulbitis in and amongst all the wood you can see here. That will then leave us the space behind it for all the planted plants that need to go in. And then I'm going to stick a load of crypts in amongst it all as well, in the shaded areas. Some of the crypts can actually not be planted. I've found that some of the best growth I've had with some of my crypts has been just random in between gaps in the rock. Like, who would have thought that would be a thing? But I done it before because I didn't have any room to plant, and it grew so well. And ever since, I've done it in a few other places and it looks really good. I'll show you an example later in my discus aquarium, but for now we need to just concentrate on this one. In which case, why am I still talking? Let's go! So being that I'm a content creator, Tropico provided me with a boatload of plants to be able to create awesome videos for you guys. But if you're looking at this amount of plants thinking I can't afford to buy that many, don't worry, you don't need this many. You can create exactly what I'm creating here with a third of the amount of plants, probably even less. The only difference is that your setup will probably take about 3 months before it's fully filled in, whereas I have the benefit of being able to make it look full right from the start, which really suits me because I'm so darn impatient anyway. Darn, that's not a word I use very often. But what I will say, guys, is that you should always buy as many plants as you can afford. You know, obviously my plants are supplied now, but before they were, I still spent a lot of money on plants because it's so important. To give yourself the best chance of success, you want to buy a lot of plants from the start. I recommend putting back a good third of your budget just for plants alone. I know that can sound like a lot, but with a lot of plants in the tank from the word go, you massively reduce your chance of algae and any other headaches. Water quality is top notch from the word go. Plants are just amazing. They're just amazing. Just get as many as you can, put them all in. So here I am prepping plants again. Wow, I've prepped a lot of plants in the last few days, but you know, what an awesome problem to have. Take off the rock wall, scrape off the rest with some tweezers. Job done. So the stage is set. Now I'm going to start placing some stuff in. I'm going to work on the biggest boom area first. This one over on the far left. I'm just going to start placing stuff in. I'm going to build forwards to the back so that then they're not blocking anything. Smallest at the front, tallest at the back. Same way with stem plants, but just with Java ferns. Because obviously we've got 3 types of Java ferns. We've got like the normal one, which is big, then we've got narrow leaf, then we've got trident, so it gets smaller as you go. Anyway, I'm just going to get them in, and then I'm going to talk about what I've done afterwards so you guys can understand. Right, that's looking fantastic so far, but it's still not quite boom enough for me. Like, I want it really big. So I've just found another couple of pots of the, well, I'd say I've just found, they're not exactly hidden, but another couple of the biggest form of the Microchosaurus pteris, the Java fern. Yes, it's the biggest type. So I'm going to put that right in this section here. I want this section filled out even more, you see, and then it will come into sort of a negative area of stuff or stems at the back or whatever, and then the smallest Java ferns will be in this sort of gap here, trailing on, leading your eye onto the smaller boom section. But anyway, let's get that big section of Java fern in there. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Now it's boom. Loving that. That's brilliant. Next job is to get that... Ow, that really hurt. So the next job is to get the smallest version of the Java ferns in, which is this really narrow leaf stuff. It's called trident because it sort of comes apart in threes. But this will be a good details to put around the rocks, you see. So like that gap in the middle there would look really good. You don't want to overdo it. I still want other plants in there as well, but that's why I didn't get too much of this stuff because it's just good for little detail. So let's get that in as well. Right, that's boom done. Now we need to work on boom. I ran out of plants. Well, I've run out of prepared plants. I need to prepare more. Go! Right, so plants done. Oh, I've turned the lights off just whilst I was prepping those plants to stop them drying out for longer. To stop them drying out quicker is what I meant to say there. There we go. Oh, it's so good. Right, prep plants, all for this side. But like I said, I want to keep that sort of negative space in the middle because that creates a really good look. The narrow leaf going through the middle and then the tall stuff at the back. So I don't follow many conventional aquascaping rules, guys. I just sort of put stuff in and go by what I think looks good. But one tip I did get from Josh Sim on the Green Aqua channel was that if you use one plant on one side, you tend to want to use it on the other side as well, and it just creates a really nice natural balance. So I try to stick to that where possible. Which means that, as you can see, we've got Bobitus on this side and we've got Bobitus on this side. Bobitus is a really nice word to say. So we want to have it on this side as well. I'm thinking in this corner and on this corner here. But the problem is, if you've got somewhere behind that hasn't got anywhere to sort of lodge in anything, I could put it underneath here, see, but that wouldn't look good just in that little area. I want it here, and if I lay it down there, it's not going to stay. So a good tip, get the Bobitus in, and then you can just lay a stone on top of it, and that will pin it against the wood, and then we're all good to go. Right, let me just take you in. Oh, this is difficult. Took you in. Right, can you see there? Look, there's the stone that's just leaning against this. Whoa, that's awkward. But yeah, you get the idea. So now that'll stay there without having to glue it, pin it, doing anything with like string. It's just there, and you can't see the rock, and the rock's taking up barely any space as well. So perfect. Carry on. Right, so that's all the epiphyte plants in. So when I say epiphyte, I mean stuff that doesn't need to be planted into soil. And you could, to be honest, just stop there, couldn't you? And that'll be it. But we're creating a jungle. So if you look at the back here, we've still got tons of room behind for loads of planting. And that's the beauty of this tank. So I think I've already mentioned 120 centimeters across, 60 centimeters back and 60 centimeters down. It's from Aquariums for Life, guys. Go to their website. It's in the description. Have a look. Really good price. Amazing, amazing tank. 12mm opti-white glass and an oak stand. I mean, you can't get better than that. But it's the depth that is really, really doing it for me, because look at the amount of foreground space we've got. Tons of rocks, tons of plants in already, and there's still so much room at the back for planting. Basically, I want to keep the planting short in the middle, so like low stuff like crypts that don't grow crazy fast, and then we can go for stems and val at the side. I've got that Vallisneria nana, which is like the thin stuff, so I think that just looks so much nicer when you've got big tapes of normal jungle val going over the top. I think that spoils the scale a bit. This stuff should look fantastic though. Also got the Hydrocotyl Japan, but I'm going to be adding that in at the end in a few key areas because that stuff grows crazy and will overtake everything. So yeah, let's get some stems and val in. So apologies for the complete lack of being able to see what the hell I'm doing here, but it's a really funny angle to try and get filming in, but you get the idea. Stem plants come right behind the Java fern. They're going to grow taller than that and look really cool, and they can be trimmed in a way that banks them backwards. And then the Vallisneria nana behind that as well, so that'll grow even taller. It'll reach the surface and then it will sweep all the way along the back, just like in my discus tank. Eventually that will reduce the lighting overall, but it will give a really cool greeny naturey effect. Kind of like a jungle. So now it's time to prepare our crypts that will be going in the middle section. We've got Cryptocorini, Wenti, Pechi and Tropica varieties. As you can see, some of the leaves have melted a little bit. Just peel them off, they're fine, they're old. All the new growth's coming through anyway, so that'll be perfect. Now in this immersed sort of state, as they're growing out of water, they're quite green, but once we put them into the water and they've been growing a while, all the new leaves coming through will give us a really good variation of colour in the middle section. We'll get like reddy brown tints, you know, just a bit more variety to the already green sections that we've got. Now these are all classed as mid-ground plants. They grow similar sort of height. I'm not planting them with any sort of structure. I'm just kind of going for a random look. I think that looks really good with crypts and should give us a really cool focal point in the middle of the tank. We then need to fill out the left side of the tank in the same way that we filled out the right. Rotala rotundifolia just behind the Java fern, and then the Vallisneria nana all the way across the back. So I just remembered, guys, I got some of these like nutrition capsules from Tropica. I'm going to stick those in the soil as well because why not? I've got them here. They'll go at the back. I'll just take the tweezers, take one, put it into the soil where all the roots are, the plants at the back. Right guys, well I think we're there. Last thing we need to do is just give it a massive spray down, and then that'll stop any crud just floating up into the water when we fill it up. I mean, it doesn't matter because it'll all get filtered, but you know, let's just spray it anyway. Okay, we've got all of that looking great. Everything's where I want it to be. I'm loving it, but we now need the filtration. The filtration. What's the filtration? It's in here. We got one oase, two oases. Why the hell am I singing? Yeah, so we got two Oase filters, guys. We got the Thermo 600 and a Thermo 250. Why the hell do you need two filters? So the Thermo 600 is going to be doing the brunt of the filtration, obviously. It's going to have the most media in it and everything like that. Obviously combined with all of the volcano mineral that we've got beneath all this scape as well. But the 250 is going to be sort of like a support one just for extra flow. So I'm going to connect the outlet and the inlet, of course, to this side at the back. So it will just create a gentle flow over the background plants because stems, they don't really like high flow. Plus, the val is going to look much nicer, just gently, like, you know, sweeping across in the gentle flow. And then you'll come to the front side, and I've got some nice glass lily pipes as well. I don't know why I'm looking down there. They're not down there. I've got some nice glass lily pipes I need to clean up because I've had them out of a tank for ages and they look horrendous. And here they are waiting to be cleaned. We've got rust, we've got grime. Oh. So these Oase filters are the best I've ever used. The plastic quality is really high grade and there's no chance of anything snapping off here. Now why are they so good? Well, first of all, they've got this extra little compartment here. It's called a pre-filter. Basically, this takes all of the grime out of the water before it goes through the main section. And the best thing about it is that you can just remove it at any point, clean out the sponges, put it back in, and you're good to go again. Now the second thing I really like about it is that it's got a built-in heater. Obviously that's not essential, but it looks so much better not having heaters in your tank. I can just about cope with inlet and outlets for filters, but if we could take the heater out of the equation, that's brilliant. Heater is also removable, as you can see, in case it needed replacing or anything like that. So this particular model comes with 4 baskets of sponges and then 2 baskets of the media. This is way too much to carry all at one time. It also comes with all the pipe work, clips and suction-y things and all that other boring stuff that I don't need to go into details on. You've all seen all that before. Pretty standard stuff on most filters. So we just need to cut the pipe in half. We can feed it through the opening in the side of our aquarium. plug it into the inlet and outlet taps, and then all we've got to do is attach our inlet and outlet. And as I said, for this one I'm using the glass lily pipes, not provided with the kit, they're bought separately, but they weren't expensive, they're just a cheap version that took 4 months to arrive from China. A while ago, I might add. Ooh, okay, thank God that's over with. We got all the pipe work clean eventually. You might have been wondering or looking what the hell I was doing with this thing. I didn't have any pipe cleaners, and this is way too big and rigid to go through it all. So I just found a load of these things in my kids' craft area. Just fashioned this really long piece of it all rolled up. Oh, it got the job done though, see? Make do with the stuff you've got and get the job done. Well, that, guys, is everything set. We've got the glassware over there. If anyone's wondering, I'll put a link in the description, hopefully, if I can still find it. But this is just a cheap eBay set, like. And then, obviously, this side, we've got the standard Awase fittings. That's fine. You won't really see that. There's going to be loads of stuff growing up in that area anyway at some point. Well, a later date. Okay, so the moment's finally here. Let's get some water in it. Boom. Yeah. Okay, so that's the beauty. Fill up with water. Let's get those filters primed and running. We should get a nice shimmer effect on the surface once we get that water bubbling away. Well guys, the tank's now been set up for about 3 days. I actually delayed releasing some of the videos for you because it was going through that horrible misty phase that all new tanks go through. Anyway, that's cleared now. And here it is. Da-da. Look at that, I think it's looking awesome. It's completely clear. Actually, it'd have if I turn off all the other lights, wouldn't it? Right, there we go. All the other lights are off, but look at that density. We've got exactly what I was looking for. I'm glad I waited a few days to show you guys this because all the plants have gone sort of up towards the light as they should do. Lights being these awesome little LED floodlights that you can buy. Just link in description, guys. Really cheap from Amazon. Brilliant little things. Look at the light we're getting off of just two 20-watt LEDs. I think they're like £20 or $25, something like that. Look, really cheap. Good colour inlet as well. So what we've got here, we've got all of our Java fern all the way we wanted it in boom, and then we've got less in boom. And then we've got our crypts at the back hiding in. We've got the val over there. Look, that's eventually just it's gonna swoop over like an arch all the way across that middle section, and it'll make sort of like a tunnel as well, which will look really good. But I'm really happy with how it's turned out, and also I love the shimmer effect, look, that we're getting in the studio now. Like if I come back here, you see you don't really get it with a strip light. There is a little bit of shimmering, look, you can see on the top, but that's what you get with a spotlight and some decent surface movement. That's also why I've lifted up the outlet there so that it can create that sort of rippling effect all the way along the surface. I've also done it a bit over here with the lily pipe as well, but the lily pipe does it automatically. You don't actually have to lift it out. But so the first fish to go in are the awesome Buenos Aires Tetra. These guys school really well. They actually get quite big as well for Tetra, but an awesome addition to the tank. Next up is our angels. I went for a mixed bag of angels here because I just want to add a bit more character rather than just a single coloured school. I just think it's more interesting to look at. We've got one black, one diamond, two gold marbled, and one autumn style. And not to forget two awesome emerald corridoras and stir by corridora.